Lily Carter was having one of those days. The kind where nothing seemed to go right and every new order felt like another weight added to her already heavy shoulders. She worked at a small diner tucked away on the edge of Chicago, far from the glitz and glamour of downtown. It wasn't much, but it paid the bills, or at least some of them. Most of the time, she liked the simplicity of the place, the smell of coffee brewing in the morning, the sizzle of burgers on the grill, and the steady hum of conversations that filled the air. But today was different. The diner was quieter than usual, which should have been a relief, but instead, it left Lily feeling uneasy. There weren't many customers, just a few regulars scattered around the room and one man sitting alone in a corner booth by the window. He stood out immediately. While most people who came here wore jeans or work clothes, this man looked like he belonged in a boardroom somewhere. His suit was sharp, his tie perfectly knotted, and his posture screamed confidence. Lily couldn't help but wonder what someone like him was doing in a place like this. Still, curiosity aside, she had a job to do. Grabbing her notepad, she approached the booth with a polite smile. "Hi there," she said cheerfully. "Can I get you anything?" The man glanced up, his piercing blue eyes meeting hers briefly before he nodded. "Coffee, black," he replied. His voice was calm, measured, almost as if he were used to giving orders rather than requests. Lily scribbled down the order and headed back to the counter, shaking off the odd feeling his presence gave her. When the coffee was ready, she brought it over, setting the mug down carefully on the table. "Here you go," she said. "Let me know if you need anything else." "Thank you," he murmured, barely looking up from whatever he was reading on his phone. Lily lingered for a moment, unsure why she felt the urge to stay. Maybe it was the way he carried himself, so composed, so distant. Or maybe it was just the fact that he seemed completely out of place, whatever it was. Something about him intrigued her. As she turned to leave, she noticed something that made her freeze mid-step. The man had pulled out his wallet to leave a tip, and nestled among the bills was a photograph. At first glance, it didn't seem remarkable. A faded picture of a woman smiling warmly into the camera. But then Lily's heart skipped a beat. That face, she recognized it instantly. It was her mother. Her hands trembled as she stared at the photo, unable to believe what she was seeing. Her mind raced with questions. How could this stranger possibly have a picture of her mom? Why would he carry it around with him? And most importantly, why did it look so familiar? Before she could stop herself, the words tumbled out of her mouth. "Why is my mom's picture in your wallet?" The man froze, his fingers hovering over the bill he'd been about to place on the table. Slowly, he raised his head, his expression unreadable. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence stretched on, thick and suffocating, until finally, he let out a soft sigh. "It's not what you think," he said quietly. His tone was gentle, almost apologetic, but it did little to ease the storm of emotions swirling inside Lily. "What do you mean? Not what I think?" she demanded, her voice rising despite her best efforts to keep it steady. "That's my mom. How do you even know her?" The man hesitated, his gaze flickering toward the door as if considering making a run for it. Then, after what felt like an eternity, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. Sliding it across the table, he said, "If you want answers, meet me tomorrow at this address. Come alone." Lily picked up the card, her eyes scanning the elegant lettering. Charles Bennett, CEO, Bennett Industries. She'd never heard of the company, but the title alone told her enough. This man wasn't just anyone. He was someone important, someone powerful. But none of that mattered right now. All she cared about was finding out how he knew her mother and why he had her picture. By the time she looked up again, Charles Bennett was gone, leaving behind only the faint scent of expensive cologne and more questions than answers. For the rest of her shift, Lily couldn't focus. Her thoughts kept drifting back to the photograph, to the man in the suit, and to the nagging feeling that her life was about to change in ways she couldn't yet imagine. When her shift ended, she drove home in a daze, the business card clutched. tightly in her hand. As she sat on the edge of her bed staring at the tiny piece of paper, she realized two things. First, she needed to find out the truth, no matter what it took. And second, she had no idea where to start. Little did she know, the journey ahead would lead her down a path filled with secrets, danger, and revelations that would challenge everything she thought she knew about her past and herself. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. Her mind kept replaying the encounter at the diner over and over again. Who was Charles Bennett? How did he know her mother? And why did he have that picture? The questions swirled around in her head like a storm she couldn't escape. Finally, after tossing and turning for hours, she decided she needed answers, and the only way to get them was to dig into her mother's past. Margaret Carter had always been a bit of a mystery to Lily. She'd passed away 5 years ago under circumstances no one ever fully explained. All Lily knew was that her mom had suffered from terrible migraines for as long as she could remember. Doctors had tried everything, but nothing seemed to help. Then one day, Margaret disappeared without a trace. Weeks later, they found her, car abandoned near a lake, and eventually her body washed up downstream. The police ruled it an accident, but something about it never sat right with Lily. Now this strange man showing up with her mother's photo felt like a clue, a thread she needed to pull. Determined to uncover the truth, Lily climbed up to the attic where she kept all of her mom's belongings. It wasn't much, just a few boxes of old clothes, letters, and photographs, but it was all she had left of her. The attic smelled musty, and dust floated lazily in the dim light of the single overhead bulb. Lily pulled down the first box and began sifting through its contents. Inside were stacks of letters tied together with string, old birthday cards, and yellowed newspaper clippings. As she went through each item, memories came flooding back. Her mom baking cookies in the kitchen, humming softly while folding laundry or sitting outside watching the sunset. But none of it answered the question burning in her mind. Why would Charles Bennett have her mom's picture? It wasn't until she opened the second box that she found something interesting. Buried beneath a pile of old sweaters was a folder labeled Novatech Employment Records. Lily frowned. She didn't recognize the name, but the logo on the folder looked familiar somehow. Flipping it open, she discovered documents detailing her mother's work history. Apparently, Margaret had worked as a secretary for Novatech, a company Lily had never heard of before. Curious, she dug deeper and found a letter addressed to her mom from someone named Dr. Evelyn Hayes. The letter thanked Margaret for her participation in a groundbreaking project and assured her that her contributions would make a difference. There was also a note scribbled in the margins. "Keep this safe, you'll understand someday." Lily's heart raced. What kind of project had her mom been involved in? And who was Dr. Evelyn Hayes? She scoured the rest of the box but didn't find anything else directly related to Novatech. Instead, she stumbled upon a stack of photographs. One of them caught her eye immediately. It showed her mom standing next to a group of people in lab coats, smiling brightly. But what really stood out was the man standing beside her. It was Charles Bennett. Lily dropped the photo in shock. So her mom had known him. But how? And why hadn't anyone ever mentioned it before? The pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together, but the picture they formed made no sense. She spent the rest of the night going through every scrap of paper, every photo and every note she could find. By the time the sun began to rise, Lily had pieced together a few key details. Novatech was once a subsidiary of Bennett Industries, the very company Charles ran. Whatever project her mom had been part of, it was clearly connected to him. But, beyond that, everything remained a mystery. Exhausted but determined, Lily grabbed the business card Charles had given her and stared at it. Tomorrow, she would go to the address he'd written down. If anyone could explain what was going on, it was him. As she got ready for bed, her thoughts drifted back to the photo of her mom and Charles. Something about it felt off, like there was more to their relationship than met the eye. Was it possible her mom had worked closely with him? Or was there something deeper, something darker at play? Whatever the truth was, Lily knew one thing for certain. Her life was about to change forever. Little did she know, The secrets hidden in her mother's past weren't just dangerous, they were world-changing, and uncovering them would put her squarely in the crosshairs of forces far beyond her understanding. The next evening, Lily found herself standing outside a luxurious hotel in downtown Chicago. Her heart pounded as she clutched the business card Charles had given her. She hadn't planned on coming here, not really, but curiosity had gotten the better of her. Besides, what choice did she have? If Charles Bennett held the key to understanding her mother's past, she wasn't going to let fear stop her from finding out the truth. The address on the card led her to a charity gala hosted by Bennett Industries. It was an exclusive event, attended by some of the wealthiest and most influential people in the city. Lily didn't exactly blend in with her simple jeans and sneakers, so she'd come up with a plan: disguise herself as part of the catering staff. Luckily, she still had her old diner uniform, a plain black dress with a white apron, and it looked close enough to pass for a server's outfit. Slipping through the side entrance, Lily joined the team of waiters and waitresses bustling around the grand ballroom. The room was breathtaking, filled with glittering chandeliers, towering floral centerpieces, and impeccably dressed guests chatting over glasses of champagne. For a moment, she forgot why she was there, caught up in the elegance of it all. But then she spotted him. Charles Bennett stood near the stage, surrounded by admirers who hung on his every word. He looked even more commanding here than he had at the diner, his presence radiating authority. Lily watched him carefully, waiting for the right moment to approach. It took nearly an hour before he finally stepped away from the crowd. Seeing her chance, Lily grabbed a tray of drinks and made her way toward him. As she drew closer, her nerves threatened to overwhelm her. What if he refused to talk? Or worse, what if he called security and had her thrown out? But she didn't have time to second-guess herself. When Charles turned slightly, noticing her standing nearby, she straightened her shoulders and spoke. "Mr. Bennett," she said firmly, keeping her voice low, "you owe me an explanation." His eyes widened in surprise, and for a split second, he looked almost guilty. Then, recovering quickly, he gestured for her to follow him. They moved away from the main hall, slipping into a quieter corridor where the noise of the party faded into a distant hum. "What are you doing here?" Charles asked, his tone sharp but not unkind. "I came because I need answers," Lily replied, meeting his gaze without flinching. "You knew my mom, you worked with her, and you carry her picture in your wallet. That's not normal, Mr. Bennett, so tell me, why?" Charles sighed deeply, running a hand through his silver hair. He glanced around as if checking for eavesdroppers before leaning closer. "This isn't the place to talk about this," he murmured. "Meet me after the event, there's something I need to show you." Lily hesitated. Trusting him felt risky, especially since she barely knew him. But she didn't have much of a choice. If he truly had information about her mother, she couldn't walk away now. "Fine," she said at last. "But if this is some kind of trick..." "It's not," Charles interrupted, his expression serious. "I promise you'll understand everything soon, just be patient." With that, he returned to the ballroom, leaving Lily alone in the hallway. She leaned against the wall, trying to calm her racing thoughts. Something about the way he spoke, the urgency in his voice, made her believe him. Or maybe she just wanted to believe him. Either way, she knew she wouldn't be able to rest until she heard what he had to say. After another hour of serving drinks and avoiding suspicion, Lily noticed Charles slip out of the ballroom. Following his instructions, she waited a few minutes before making her way to the service elevator. According to the note he'd slipped her earlier, they were meeting on the top floor, in his private office. The ride up felt endless, each ding of the elevator signaling another floor past. By the time the doors opened, Lily's palms were sweaty, and her stomach churned with anticipation. Stepping off, she saw Charles waiting for her outside a set of double doors. "This way," he said quietly, leading her inside. The office was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a stunning view of the city skyline. Despite its beauty, though, the room felt cold and impersonal, like a fortress rather than a workspace. Charles gestured for her to sit, then closed the door behind them. For a long moment, Neither of them spoke. Finally, Charles broke the silence. "Your mother was a remarkable woman," he began, his voice heavy with emotion. "She believed in something bigger than herself, something that could change the world." Lily leaned forward, hanging on his every word. Whatever he was about to tell her, she could feel it was important, life-changing even, and she was right. The silence in the office was deafening. Lily sat perched on the edge of her chair, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. Across from her, Charles Bennett stared out the window, his face shadowed by the dim glow of the city lights. For a moment it seemed like he might not speak at all, but then, with a deep breath, he turned to face her. "Your mother," he began, slowly, "was involved in something extraordinary, something that even now I don't fully understand." Lily's heart raced. She wanted to interrupt, to demand answers, but she forced herself to stay quiet. This was the moment she'd been waiting for, the truth about her mother's past. "Years ago," Charles continued, "Bennett Industries partnered with a government-funded initiative called Project EOS. It was ambitious. We were exploring ways to enhance human cognition, specifically how memories and consciousness could be stored or transferred using advanced neural technology." He paused, studying her reaction. Lily frowned, trying to make sense of what he was saying. Neural technology? Stored memories? It sounded like something out of a science fiction movie, not real life. "At first," Charles went on, "it seemed promising. Participants reported improved memory recall, heightened focus, even flashes of what they described as shared experiences. Your mother volunteered because she thought it might help her migraines. She believed in the project's potential to do good." Lily swallowed hard. Her mom had always been selfless, always willing to help others, even at great personal cost. Hearing this only reinforced how much she missed her. "But things went wrong," Charles admitted, his voice dropping lower. "Terribly wrong. Some participants started experiencing side effects, memory loss, hallucinations, paranoia. A few disappeared entirely. When the government shut us down, we destroyed most of the research. Or so we thought." Lily's brow furrowed. "What do you mean, or so you thought?" Charles hesitated, as if choosing his words carefully. "Before the project ended, your mother managed to extract critical data from our systems. Data that contained not just information about the experiments, but fragments of human consciousness, including hers." Lily's breath caught in her throat. Fragments of her mother's consciousness? How was that even possible? "She hid it," Charles explained. "Not in a computer or a lab, but somewhere no one would think to look. Inside another person. Inside you." For a moment, Lily couldn't move. Her mind reeled, struggling to process what he was telling her. "Inside me," she whispered finally. "What does that mean?" "It means," Charles said grimly, "that part of your mother's mind, her thoughts, her memories may still exist within you, buried deep in your subconscious, waiting to be unlocked." Lily shook her head, overwhelmed. "No, that's impossible. If that were true, wouldn't I have noticed something? Wouldn't I remember?" "Not necessarily," Charles replied. "The human brain is incredibly complex. These fragments can remain dormant for years, surfacing only in dreams, or fleeting moments of déjà vu. Until now, you may not have realized their significance." Lily thought back to the strange dreams she'd had as a child, vivid, fragmented images of places she'd never been, and people she didn't recognize. At the time, she'd dismissed them as nothing more than her imagination running wild. Could they have been something else entirely? "Why are you telling me this now?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Because someone else knows," Charles said gravely. "Someone dangerous. They've been searching for the missing data ever since the project was shut down. And if they find out it's in you..." He didn't need to finish the sentence. The implication hung heavy in the air between them. Lily felt a chill run down her spine. "Who are they?" "I don't know," Charles admitted, "but they're powerful, and they won't stop until they get what they want." Before Lily could respond, The sound of footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. Both of them froze, listening intently. The door burst open moments later, and several men in dark suits stormed into the room. They moved with precision, weapons drawn, their faces emotionless masks. "Stay back," Charles shouted, stepping in front of Lily protectively. One of the men stepped forward, addressing Charles directly. "We warned you not to interfere, Mr. Bennett. Hand over the girl, and we'll leave peacefully." Lily's eyes widened in terror. "What's going on? Who are these people?" "There's no time to explain," Charles said urgently. He reached into his pocket and pressed a small USB drive into her hand. "Take this. It has coordinates to a safe location. Find Dr. Evelyn Hayes. She's the only one who can help you unlock the truth." "But go," he barked, shoving her toward a hidden door behind his desk. Without another word, Lily slipped through the doorway, her heart pounding as she ran down a narrow staircase. Behind her, she heard shouts and the sound of scuffling, but she didn't look back. She couldn't. As she emerged onto the street below, clutching the USB drive tightly, Lily didn't stop running until she was sure she'd put enough distance between herself and the chaos at the hotel. Her legs burned, and her lungs felt like they might burst, but adrenaline kept her moving. She clutched the USB drive tightly, in her hand, its smooth surface a constant reminder of what was at stake. Following the coordinates Charles had given her, she eventually arrived at an old warehouse on the outskirts of the city. It looked abandoned from the outside, its windows boarded up and its walls covered in graffiti. But when she knocked on the door in a specific pattern, the one Charles had described, she heard footsteps approaching from within. The door creaked, open to reveal a middle-aged woman with sharp features and kind eyes. She wore glasses perched on the edge of her nose and carried a tablet in one hand. "You must be Lily," the woman said softly. "I'm Dr. Evelyn Hayes." Relief washed over Lily as she stepped inside. The interior of the warehouse was nothing like she'd expected. Hidden behind the crumbling facade was a state-of-the-art laboratory filled with computers, monitors, and strange devices that hummed with energy. Glowing screens displayed streams of data, while wires snaked across tables in organized chaos. "Charles sent me," Lily said breathlessly. "He said you could help me understand everything." Dr. Hayes nodded, her expression serious. "Yes, he contacted me earlier. He knew this day might come." She gestured for Lily to sit down at a workstation. "Tell me what you know so far." For the next hour, Lily recounted everything that had happened: the encounter at the diner, the discovery of her mother's connection to Project EOS, and the men who had attacked them at the hotel. As she spoke, Dr. Hayes listened intently, occasionally jotting notes on her tablet. When Lily finished, Dr. Hayes leaned back in her chair, letting out a slow sigh. "Your mother was one of the bravest people I've ever known," she said finally. "She risked everything to protect the data and to protect you." "But why me?" Lily asked, frustration creeping into her voice. "Why would she hide this, whatever it is, inside my mind?" "It wasn't just about hiding it," Dr. Hayes explained. "It was about preserving it. Your mother believed that embedding the data in your subconscious would keep it safe until the time was right. She trusted that you'd find a way to unlock it when the world needed it most." Lily shook her head, still struggling to wrap her mind around the idea. How does any of this even work? How can someone's memories, or their consciousness, be stored inside another person? Dr. Hayes hesitated before answering. Project EOS wasn't just about memory storage. It was about creating a bridge, a link between human minds and artificial intelligence. By merging fragments of consciousness with neural implants, we hoped to achieve something unprecedented, a hybrid form of existence that could transcend physical limitations. Lily stared at her, stunned. "Are you saying my mom's mind is alive? Inside me?" "In a way, yes," Dr. Hayes replied gently. "But it's not complete. What you carry are echoes, fragments of her thoughts, emotions, and experiences. To access them fully, we'll need to use specialized equipment designed to interface with your brain." Lily's stomach churned at the thought. Is it dangerous? It carries risks, Dr. Hayes admitted. But if we don't try, those who are after you will stop at nothing to extract the information themselves. And believe me, their methods won't be kind. After a long pause, Lily nodded. Okay, let's do it. Dr. Hayes led her to a chair. In the center of the lab, surrounded by machines and monitors, she carefully attached electrodes to Lily's temples and adjusted settings on a nearby console. This process will feel strange, she warned. You may experience flashes of memories, not just yours, but your mother's. Try to stay calm and let the system guide you. As the machine powered up, a low hum filled the room. Lights flickered across the screens and Lily closed her eyes, bracing herself. At first, there was only silence. Then, slowly, images began to appear in her mind. She saw her mother smiling, laughing, cooking dinner in their tiny kitchen. But these weren't her own memories. They were clearer, sharper, as if she were seeing them through someone else's eyes. Other scenes followed. Labs filled with scientists, rows of blinking machinery, whispered conversations late at night. And then she saw him, the man who had haunted her dreams since childhood. Tall, with piercing gray eyes and a scar along his jawline. He stood in front of a group of people speaking passionately about the future of humanity. Who is that? Lily gasped aloud, her voice trembling. Dr. Hayes glanced at the monitor where a fragmented image of the man appeared. That's Victor Kane, she said grimly, the man funding Project EOS, and the one responsible for its downfall. Before Lily could ask more, the vision shifted again. This time she found herself standing in a dark room surrounded by voices. They spoke in hushed tones, discussing plans to weaponize the technology. We have to stop him, one voice said urgently. It sounded like her mother. Suddenly, pain shot through Lily's head and she cried out. The machine shut off automatically, leaving the room eerily quiet. Dr. Hayes rushed to her side. Are you all right? Lily nodded weakly, though her mind was racing. Whatever her mother had discovered, it was bigger than either of them realized, and now it was up to her to finish what her mom had started. I need to see more, she said, determination hardening her voice. We have to stop Victor Kane. Dr. Hayes gave her a solemn nod. Then we'll keep going. Together. The next few days passed in a blur for Lily. With Dr. Hayes's guidance, she delved deeper into the fragments of her mother's consciousness buried within her mind. Each session was like stepping into another world, a kaleidoscope of emotions, images, and sounds that felt both foreign and familiar. She saw glimpses of her mother's life, quiet moments at home, tense arguments in sterile labs, and late-night meetings with people whose faces she couldn't quite place. But there was always one constant. The man named Victor Kane. Victor loomed over everything. In some visions he was charming and persuasive, rallying others to his cause. In others he was cold and calculating, ordering experiments that pushed ethical boundaries far beyond what anyone should have tolerated. Through these fragments, Lily began to piece together the truth about Project EOS. It wasn't just about enhancing human cognition or storing memories. It was about control. Victor wanted to create a new kind of intelligence, Dr. Hayes explained during one of their breaks, a hybrid consciousness capable of linking humans and machines. He believed it would give humanity an edge against threats we couldn't even imagine yet. But why turn it into a weapon? Lily asked, her voice trembling with anger. Why hurt so many people? Dr. Hayes sighed heavily. Because power corrupts. Once Victor realized the potential of the technology, he stopped caring about helping people. All he cared about was domination, over minds, over governments, over the future itself. As the sessions continued, Lily uncovered more details about her mother's role in the project. Margaret hadn't just been a participant. She'd been one of the key architects of the neural implant system. Her brilliance had driven much of the early success, but when she discovered Victor's true intentions, she made the ultimate sacrifice to protect the research and her daughter. She knew they'd come after her, Dr. Hayes said softly. So she encoded the most critical parts of the project into your subconscious. She trusted you to carry the torch if anything happened to her. Lily struggled to process the weight of her mother's decision. She had spent years wondering why Margaret had left her behind, believing it was because of illness or fate. Now she understood it had been a choice, a desperate act of love and defiance, but understanding didn't make it easier. Every time she accessed the fragments, she felt closer to her mother, but also further away from herself. The lines between her own thoughts and Margaret's were beginning to blur, leaving her disoriented and emotionally drained. Still, she pressed on, knowing the stakes were too high to quit. One evening, as they reviewed the latest batch of recovered data, Dr. Hayes paused suddenly. On the screen was a map overlaid with coordinates. This is where Victor kept the mainframe, she whispered, her eyes widening. It's still operational. What does that mean? Lily asked, leaning closer. It means he never gave up, Dr. Hayes replied grimly. If the mainframe is active, then he's still trying to complete the project. And if he succeeds... She didn't need to finish the sentence. Lily could already picture the consequences. Entire populations controlled, free will erased, humanity reduced to puppets dancing on strings pulled by Victor Kane. We have to destroy it, Lily said firmly. Dr. Hayes hesitated. Going after him won't be easy. His facilities are heavily guarded, and he has resources we can't even begin to match. I don't care, Lily shot back. I'm not letting him win. Not after everything my mom did to stop him. After a long silence, Dr. Hayes nodded. Then I'll help you. But we'll need a plan. And allies. Over the next 2 days, they worked tirelessly to prepare. Using the data stored on the USB drive Charles had given her, they identified weaknesses in Victor's security systems and mapped out escape routes. They also reached out to former members of Project EOS who had gone into hiding after the project was shut down. To Lily's surprise, several agreed to join them, driven by guilt over their past involvement and a desire to make amends. The night before the mission, Lily sat alone in the lab, staring at the HI. The team moved silently through the dimly lit corridors of Victor Kane's mountain facility. Every step echoed ominously, each sound threatening to give them away. Lily led the way, clutching the small device Dr. Hayes had prepared to disable, the mainframe. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure the others could hear it, but she forced herself to stay focused. This wasn't just about stopping Victor. It was about honoring her mother's sacrifice. As they neared the control room, the air grew colder, heavy with tension. The door slid open automatically, revealing a cavernous space filled with blinking monitors and humming machinery. At the center of it all stood a towering console surrounded by armed guards. And there, watching from the shadows, was Victor Kane himself. "Well, well," Victor said, stepping into the light. His voice was smooth, almost amused, as if he'd been expecting them all along. "I wondered when you'd show up, Miss Carter." Lily froze, her grip tightening on the device. "How do you know my name?" Victor smirked, his piercing gray eyes locking onto hers. "Your mother talked about you often. She was fond of you. It's unfortunate she chose to betray me." "Betray you?" Lily snapped, anger flaring inside her. "You were using her and everyone else to build something monstrous." Victor shrugged as if the accusation meant nothing to him. "Progress demands sacrifice, my dear. Surely even you can understand that." "No," Lily shot back. "What you're doing isn't progress. It's domination, control, and I'm not letting you get away with it." Victor's smile faltered for a moment, replaced by a flicker of irritation. Then, with a wave of his hand, the guards raised their weapons, aiming directly at the group. "Enough of this nonsense," he said coldly. "Hand over the device or your friends will pay the price." Lily glanced at Dr. Hayes and the others, their faces pale but resolute. They had come this far together, risking everything to stop him. She couldn't let them down, not now. Summoning every ounce of courage, Lily stepped forward, holding the device high. "If you want it, come and take it." For a moment, no one moved. The room seemed frozen in time, the only sound the faint hum of the machines around them. Then, without warning, Victor gave a sharp nod, and the guards opened fire. But Lily was ready. With a swift motion, she activated the EMP function on the device, sending a pulse of energy rippling through the room. Lights flickered, screens went dark, and the guards' weapons sputtered uselessly. Chaos erupted as alarms blared, bathing the room in flashing red light. "Now!" Lily shouted, signaling the others to move. Dr. Hayes and the rest of the team sprang into action, taking advantage of the confusion to neutralize the guards. Meanwhile, Lily sprinted toward the mainframe, dodging debris and stray shots. Victor lunged after her, his movement surprisingly quick for someone his age. "You think you can stop me?" he snarled, grabbing her arm. "You're just a child playing at being a hero." Lily twisted free, shoving him back with all her strength. "I'm not alone," she said fiercely, "and I'm not afraid of you." Reaching the console, she inserted the device and began typing furiously, following the instructions Dr. Hayes had drilled into her head. Lines of code scrolled across the screen as the system fought back, trying to override her commands. Sweat dripped down her face as she worked, her fingers flying over the keys. Behind her, Victor regained his footing and charged again. This time, Dr. Hayes intercepted him, tackling him to the ground. The two struggled briefly before Dr. Hayes managed to knock him unconscious with a swift blow to the head. "Lily," she called out urgently. "Hurry!" "I'm almost done," Lily replied, her voice strained. Finally, the program completed its task. A deafening whir filled the room as the mainframe powered down, its glowing lights fading one by one. For a moment there was silence, a quiet so profound it felt unnatural. Then slowly the facility began to collapse around them. Alarms screamed louder than ever, warning of an imminent meltdown. "We need to go. Now!" Dr. Hayes yelled, pulling Lily away from the console. The team raced toward the exit, dodging falling debris and collapsing walls. Just as they reached the surface, a massive explosion rocked the mountain behind them, sending shockwaves rippling through the air. They didn't stop running until they were safely out of range, collapsing onto the ground in exhaustion. As the dust settled, Lily looked back at the ruins of Victor's fortress. "It's over," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Dr. Hayes placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Not quite," she said gently. "There's still more work to do, but today we took a big step toward making things right." Lily nodded, feeling a mix of relief and determination. The battle might have ended, but the fight for justice and truth was far from over, and somewhere deep inside her she could feel her mother's presence, proud and unwavering. The days that followed felt surreal to Lily. After destroying Victor, Kane's facility, the team had gone into hiding, knowing his allies might still be searching for them. But as time passed without any sign of pursuit, they began to breathe easier. The immediate danger was gone, though the scars, both physical and emotional, remained. For Lily, the hardest part wasn't the exhaustion or even the fear. It was coming to terms with everything she'd learned about her mother. Margaret Carter hadn't just been a loving parent. She'd been a hero who risked everything to protect humanity from Victor's greed. And now, it was up to Lily to carry on her legacy. Dr. Hayes helped her make sense of the fragments of memories still surfacing in her mind. Some were bittersweet reminders of moments she'd shared with her mom, birthdays, bedtime stories, laughter-filled evenings. Others were harder to process, flashes of labs, arguments, and whispered plans late at night. Through it all, Lily felt closer to her mother than ever before, as if Margaret were guiding her from beyond. One morning, Dr. Hayes handed her a USB drive containing the recovered data from Project EOS. "This belongs to you," she said softly. "It's your decision what to do with it." Lily stared at the small device, weighing its significance. Inside it lay decades of research, groundbreaking discoveries that could change the world. But it also held the potential for misuse, the same kind of abuse that had driven Victor to madness. "I can't let this fall into the wrong hands again," Lily said finally. "But I don't want to bury it either. My mom worked too hard for this to disappear." Dr. Hayes nodded approvingly, Then share it responsibly. Find people you trust, scientists, ethicists, leaders, to ensure it's used for good. With that advice in mind, Lily spent weeks carefully selecting individuals and organizations to entrust with the information. She reached out to journalists, academics, and activists, explaining the importance of transparency and accountability. Slowly but surely, the truth about Project EOS came to light, sparking global conversations about ethics, technology, and human rights. As the story spread, so did calls for reform. Governments and corporations faced pressure to regulate advancements in neural technology, ensuring they served humanity rather than exploited it. Though progress was slow, Lily took comfort in knowing she'd played a role in steering the future toward something better. On a crisp autumn morning, Lily climbed to the rooftop of her apartment building. She carried two things with her: the photograph of her mother she'd found in Charles Bennett's wallet, and a small notebook filled with thoughts and reflections from the past few months. Standing at the edge, she gazed out at the city below, bathed in the golden light of dawn. She thought about how far she'd come since that fateful day at the diner. From a simple waitress trying to get by, she'd become someone willing to fight for justice, even when it meant risking everything. It wasn't a path she'd chosen, but it was one she embraced wholeheartedly. Looking down at the photograph, she smiled faintly. "I did it, Mom," she whispered. "I stopped him, just like you would have." For a moment she swore she felt a gentle breeze brush against her cheek, almost like a kiss. Whether it was real or imagined didn't matter. It gave her the strength to keep going. Tucking the photograph back into her pocket, Lily turned her attention to the notebook. Flipping through its pages, she realized how much she'd grown. Not just as a person, but as someone capable of making a difference. She decided then and there to write a book, sharing her story with the world. If others could learn from her journey, maybe they'd find their own courage to stand up against injustice. As the sun rose higher, painting the sky in vibrant hues, Lily made a silent promise to herself and to her mother. She wouldn't stop fighting. Not for equality, not for truth, and certainly not for a future where no one else would have to endure what she had. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would still be challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. But standing there, surrounded by the beauty of a new day, Lily knew she was ready, because deep down, she understood what her mother had always known. The greatest victories often begin with a single step, and sometimes, that step is taken by those brave enough to believe in a better tomorrow. And as she walked back inside, the photograph safely tucked away in her heart full of purpose, Lily Carter stepped into the rest of her life ready to face whatever came next.